Vajrayana Buddhism,
John
in
Baker
other words,
of
Tantrayana,
USA.
and in particular on pilgrimage and power places, if you will, in the Tantric Buddhist tradition. So the Shaktipitas and in the Tibetan context of hidden lands and how those reflect actually larger visions of kind of less tangible hidden lands like Shambhala. But what I thought I would focus on today in the context of Eastern humanism was to look at kind of the evolution as I see it, or actually largely as it's mapped out, of Buddhism in the so-called three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. And so if we look at this model that I would like to propose as a way in which we see a kind of humanistic turn within Buddhist thought and practice over the course of centuries, I think it's interesting this is a model that was kind of developed in the Yogacara school of Buddhism, but then became very, very widely adopted in the Tibetan Buddhist iteration of the so-called three yanas, or the three vehicles by which realization and enlightenment could be achieved. So in that view, though, the first turning of the wheel is associated with the Four Noble Truths as taught by the historical Buddha and based upon a model of renunciation. As scholars like Donald Lopez have pointed out, this is actually a mistranslation to call it the Four Noble Truths. It's actually the Four Truths for the noble ones, those who have actually renounced samsara. So if we really look carefully at the wording, we actually see that the Four Noble Truths are a way to reaffirm one's renunciation of worldly aspirations in order to follow the model of the Dikshu, the renunciate. This is a very powerful model. At the same time, of course, recognize it in whatever way of life we're pursuing as a householder, as a yogin, as a yogini, or as a monk or nun, that life is characterized by pervasive discontent. However, that model that promoted in the earliest iteration of Buddhism, in which renunciation was the ideal, and in which basically one meditated one's way into not to be reborn again it was really about the pratimoksha, was to kind of get out of a dissatisfying world. And in that sense, it was not a specifically humanitarian ideal. So that came in with the so-called second turning of the wheel that we associate with the emergence of the greater vehicle, the Mahayana phase of Buddhism, in which the Bodhisattva vow was fundamental. And the Bodhisattva vow, as I'm sure all of you are aware, was where you actually make a vow that you'll be born and born again forever until all of samsara is empty. So it was actually a very revolutionary movement within the Buddhist system, because it completely reversed the earliest ideal of Buddhism, which was not to be born again. You actually, by embracing the world through compassion and a recognition of emptiness, as we heard Swamiji describe, not simply
this is the
emptiness,
7th Dharma
nothingness, but actually
conference.
Brahman is the reality itself. But that reality